Welcome back. You're watching South Africa Tonight, and KwaZulu-Natal's traditional leadership is fed up with government. They say officials aren't doing enough to support them. The Congress of Traditional Leaders of South Africa and other leaders held their provincial conference in Durban over the weekend. The conference deliberated on issues regarding traditional leadership and challenges faced by Amakhosi and Izinduna. eNCA senior reporter Dasen Thathiah has been tracking that conference and joins us now for more. Thank you very much for your time this evening, Dasen. I suppose a big question here would be, what were some of the big resolutions that were taken by traditional leaders at this conference?
Well, Rafiwa, you would know that traditional leaders have been under attack, it would seem, over the past few years. There have been a number of challenges, but I think key among them would be that there were about 46 traditional leaders that were killed over the past 3 years. This has caused lots of concern in government, in the traditional leadership circles, and basically in rural communities as to why there is this spike. But that's not the only issue. Some of the other things that were discussed at the conference was about formalizing traditional leadership structures. So what that effectively means is that Contralisa, as well as its affiliates, want to see a situation where, for example, Izinduna are now formalized, much like councillors. So they earn a salary. That they are sometimes in certain local government structures regarded or rather given an opportunity to be PR councillors, for example. So what Contralisa is calling for, and this is after its provincial conference, is that there should be a merging of those structures. It says from the very outset, the way the traditional leadership structure was set up has been wrong. So it feels that there's more weight given to more westernized structures, and that shouldn't be the case. But let's listen into what Amakhosi and Izinduna had to say about the resolutions that were taken at that conference.
The conference adopted the izitulo zabangcweki, including assertions and resolutions therein as they are. Submissions to the United Nations. The KwaZulu-Natal traditional leadership led by Contralisa shall make submissions to the United Nations as pertaining to the South African government campaign to render extinct traditional indigenous leadership in South Africa. Murder or murders of traditional leaders asserts that in the last 3 years, 46 traditional leaders have been murdered, 9 of whom are Amakhosi. Government and the greater law enforcement stakeholder community ought to prioritize setting up a commission that will investigate the matters, as well as the law enforcement processes pertaining to these, and that the necessary safety and security measures and protocols be implemented to curb the scourge. Local government. On native land under traditional authorities, logic implies that traditional leadership be appointed as PR councillors, which calls for the amendment of the Electoral Act. We call upon government to execute this by the end of 2023, prior to the national general elections of 2024.
Then other developments that we saw throughout the conference proceedings, Dasen, was the ABC, which is a relatively small party, solidifying its relations with Contralisa. Is this anything significant to note?
I think it is, Rafiwa, because you would have listened there to Amakhosi talking about what they're demanding of government. But that stems from what they believe is a failure of the ANC-led government. And I think what they clarified during that media briefing today was their engagements with different political parties. So while Contralisa itself is apolitical, they have been engaging with various political parties to find those that they feel they can work with. And so far, they now say that their relationship with the ANC hasn't been fruitful. And that's why they're now taking the stance, saying, look, we want these things done, or else, we are going to form our own government. They've gone as far as saying that a parallel government will now exist within rural structures because they don't recognize the former one anymore. Now, why I'm telling you all of that is because the ABC has capitalized on this breakdown in that relationship, because it shares some very basic fundamental principles with Contralesa. And that party is important because its leader is the deputy mayor in the eThekwini municipality. In fact, it was his vote that gave the ANC its power back in this metro. So very interesting turn in the political landscape here. But let's listen to what the leader of ABC had to say in how he's going to balance these two issues. The one being the deputy mayor of eThekwini, and on the other hand, supporting what Contralesa has to say.
The nice thing about politics is that is either you vote in agreement with what is being tabled in front of you, or you vote against. I'll give you one example that nobody likes. The aid never ever vote for anything in eThekwini. Now, let's come to the issues that are not in our favor as APC. We'll simply talk against it, we'll vote against it regardless. That's what we'll do. And it will not pass that budget. I think by now you've seen on few issues where APC have said, this is not going to happen, it has not happened. That's the way it is. So it's exactly the same with this as well, that if we disagree with something, we will disagree and we'll come out in the open with that. All our interest is at the moment, it is to champion the cause of the dispossessed and the condemned. That's where we are.
Thank you very much for those insights. Senior reporter Dasen Thathiah speaking to us there about the Contralesa conference and what they shared after the conference in that press briefing from a little earlier.